We're here to bring real solutions to real problems affecting real people today. With your support, you can join us in becoming part of the solution and a part of this movement.
Hello, and welcome to the Mobility Independence Foundation. I'm here to introduce Eliana. Eliana sent me an email, and that's why we're here.
Hey, it's so good to be here.
So we're announcing a new project called the RazRover, and it is a fundraiser that will lead to the design of a prototype, which is more expensive than the final product when we're done, and a book to educate children and communities on what's possible with open hardware. Open hardware is where we create a design and release that design with all of the information you need to both build and repair it. And our focus is on using readily available parts and materials that you can buy on the internet or a local hardware store. And with today's technology, we can go pretty far with that. It's all very readily available. It's not our first project, but it's a good project to do because it hits home to my own childhood. But Eliana, you sent me an email, and I remember this, right? Because I was having a very busy day, and I just read it briefly on my cell phone. I think I responded that I would call you at another day, and I got done with what I was doing, and that email that you sent me just rattled in my head, and I just went ahead and called you anyhow. Um, but what uh, what led you to sending me that email?
Well, so first of all, it's really great to be here. I'm really happy to be talking with you. And what led me to send that email is that my family has been on a journey of trying to procure a wheelchair for my son, who's 5, for almost a year now. Um, my son was born with a rare genetic disorder that causes ambulatory disability and affects primarily his lower limbs. And it's similar to cerebral palsy. Um, and for much of his life, he's used a walker or been pushed in a stroller. And he's gotten to the age where he just wants to be independent. And the most viable way physically for him to be independent right now is in a wheelchair. And so we spoke with this about his spoke about this with his pediatrician and talked about it, get the process going. We thought, okay, we're gonna get a wheelchair. It's gonna be great. Ha ha. So we we started off going to our local children's hospital, where we were told that our gold insurance plan that we purchased on the healthcare exchange was not accepted at the major children's hospital where we live. I think the largest children's hospital where we live. And that was pretty shocking and upsetting. And we had to cancel our appointment for our initial wheelchair fitting while we appealed this decision. We then appealed the decision, and um, our appeal was accepted. And we thought, great, now we could start this process. And so we, um, we showed up for the appointment. We had the wheelchair fitting, and a few things happened. One was we were told, um, okay, they're about to go swimming, so we're just grabbing our kids' bathing suits. Yeah, so we were told, great, here's the fitting, um, and come back, we'll start the process. And we said, okay, how long is it going to be till we get the chair? And they said, oh, we don't really know. Maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months. We're not sure. Zero sense of urgency. Zero sense of urgency. Despite the fact that this is a totally necessary medical device that my child needs to thrive, to have independent mobility, to be able to engage socially, to be able to engage academically. It's something that affects his entire life all the time, every single day, at school, at community events. And just, we just encountered that there's just zero sense of urgency or understanding from our healthcare institutions and providers that this is something that he needs not in 3 months, not in 6 months, not in a year, but now, right?
The interesting thing about that is most of the equipment that you can get through these systems is pre-manufactured, merely adjustable and not truly customizable. And it's already sitting in a warehouse when you go for that first appointment.
Yeah, and despite the fact that our insurance said that they were going to cover it, we were still slapped with a bill where they covered maybe 5% of the visit. It was a $571 bill, and our insurance company covered $69. So, um, I don't know how that's considered insurance or coverage because
Yeah, that's that's the thing going on today. My personal perspective, because I've seen this for so many decades, is that when we rely on systems that are governed by our government, then we are reliant on the changes that happen every time somebody else is voted in, whether it's a governor or a president or Congress or just appointed positions at the FDA and other forms of our healthcare system. It really is not reliable. They try to sell this as a safety net that we're supposed to be able to rely on, and it's just not. And so, in terms of equipment, open hardware is the solution. We can do this ourselves. I believe it was President Kennedy that said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Well, those of us with disabilities, we're in your country. We are your countrymen. Um,
well, yeah, and I think I guess your original question is why did I email you? So I think the reason I emailed you is because um, I just came across, I do a lot of research, like internet research. I'm always trying to find just things that are happening in the world of disability, advocacy, technology, and I think I came across your work in an article about a university that was building a practice power chair for kids because,
that
yeah,
That's Arizona State University. We held a little contest with their HEAL lab to create a training wheelchair to help children pass those evaluations to
yeah.
get a powered chair. And I just want to explain that real quick. That you go through all the rigmarole that Eliana was just talking about for approval. And often enough, depending on where you are, the last linchpin is with the provider, and they put your 3 to 7 year old child in a power wheelchair to see how well they drive the first time. No training,
Baby driving test.
right? And most people when they get their driver's license, they've trained to drive prior. And I remember going through a lot of what you're talking about. I actually had my first power chair when I was 4 years old. And it had severe design flaws because it was conceived by someone for someone, not by someone with someone. And the reality is that was a ambulatory person um, trying to solve a problem that they haven't lived, but that they see. And if you don't include the people who are living it, you're not going to solve that problem very well. That chair had a lot of electrical problems, and the wheels fell off frequently and caused me injury at that age. At one
Well,
point after that, at one point after that chair, I was sent to school in a manual chair that was not fit for me and was not safeguarding my legs. And there were accidents in which students broke my legs. So, I mean, this is all very easy to solve now with everything that's available, and that's really what we should be doing as a society.
and
Is
I think that's like why I reached out to you and why when I read that article, I just I felt like this is it because I saw that you're a person who you see the solution and you are moving towards the solution. You can see it in your mind and you're actualizing it in the world and you think creatively and in a way that um it truly is a problem solving and innovative way. And it was just exciting for me to encounter your organization because I'm like, okay, here's this person who's lived this his entire life, and he's telling us this is how you solve this, right? And it just was like, duh, like, duh. And you have fun swag, and I have a weakness for swag.
Um, so, it's interesting. Our lead mechanical engineer, Devin, he's got full body CP. And in our documentary that we show whenever we go anywhere, he states, um, I like building solutions that allow us to thrive rather than just to survive. And that's a very key point because you can technically survive, in solitary confinement. But is that thriving? Is that good? Why are we staying alive, right? And the pushback that we get from people often enough is that you can buy $100 manual wheelchair at Walmart. Is that going to work for your son?
They don't make a pediatric $100
That's
chair
correct.
thing on Walmart. Yeah.
And that's even then, that's just a manual wheelchair that usually causes injury. It's not meant to be independent. It's meant to be pushed around. And children to grow and learn and develop, they need that independence to move and experience things. I like to say that we all need to go bump and experience dog poop in the yard. Um, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and also like what you're saying, like I think something that I encountered when we go to these appointments, it's as if the mentality is like, oh, they're doing my son a favor, right? Like they're doing him a favor by getting him some mobility device, that otherwise he would just be stranded. And it's not it doesn't come from it feels that it comes from this place of well, your body doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and therefore we're going to throw you a bone,
yep,
uh,
scraps.
scraps, because your body doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and that's like somehow your fault or something. And it's
So
just, yeah, it's just
I,
not, it doesn't feel good.
it doesn't at all. I mean, I call it a false promise. I remember going through this, particularly as a child. I'm going to get a wheelchair. I'm going to be able to do other things. I'm going to be able to do everything. And then it breaks down and it takes 5 months to get a repair and on and on and on with the systemic problems there. And part of the problem is that medicine has gotten better. This doesn't sound like a bad problem to have. Children with disabilities and those who are aging with disabilities are surviving at a much greater rate. And our systems of provision have not grown to provide. That's why we see caps on Medicaid waivers in some states. That's why we see limitations on expenditures. Um, and a lot of that expenditure is often bureaucracy and things that don't actually apply to that person. With open hardware, a community can use mutual aid and designs and skills that exist in the community to actually just build the thing and let that person thrive. I want to ask you what you see in the future for your son and why a powered wheelchair in particular is important for his future from your perspective as a mother.
Sure. So, um, manual chairs can be great for certain situations. With his particular set of you know, abilities, for independence where he can go up hills, go down hills, really be able to go somewhere on his own that's not just flat terrain or a flat floor. He really needs a power chair for that true sense of independence of I'm here and now I'm going to go there. Um, and I can keep up with my peers on a playground. I can roll down the street at the same pace that my friends can walk down the street. I can sort of keep up in a crowd, um, and at the speed at which things occur, in sort of um, environments where the majority of folks uh, are walkers, you know.
I think that's important because there's a few things that the broader society fails to understand. One, a manual wheelchair is quite arduous to maneuver around the world. It might be nice and easy in a hospital setting or in a mall, but if you're trying to go outside, down a sidewalk, get through a school day, let alone a work day, and some people have to raise their own families, right? A manual wheelchair is often not enough, and they're often ill fit. So when we talk about equipment needing to be adequate, we have to realize that that equipment has to bring that person to life, not just to a place, not just to a room, and not just to a seated position at any given moment, and not to a situation where they're being pushed around, but to a situation where they get to choose where they go. That choice is important. And
And to
in terms of
expand the possibility of those choices, right?
absolutely.
In a manual chair, if we're on a flat surface, okay, maybe he can go from place to place. And it's not that that's bad, right? That's great. But if you have the opportunity to expand that choice exponentially with a power chair that's adequate and well suited to him, think about the possibilities for his life, right? Think about how that opens the possibilities for his life, how that opens the possibility for his independence, right? Independence is not a binary. Independence is a spectrum. And if we can move his sense and his reality of independence to, you know, way further along on that spectrum, why wouldn't we do it? And why wouldn't our society want that, right? Why would society want him to be more limited than he has to be? Because that's not good for anyone.
I think the reality is that it's not that our society wants them to be more limited. It's that our society is not aware of the possibilities. Open hardware is a concept that's just starting to grow. There are companies in Germany doing laptops, smartwatches, digital cameras as open hardware, where you can just get that design and order the parts and build it. Um, other other mobility equipment initiatives on the small scale are also doing open hardware. And furthermore, for homesteading, I've actually seen earth moving equipment like bulldozers being developed as open hardware. But think
When you
about
when you say art open hardware, like what does it mean that those parts are available to anyone?
that. Right. So open hardware can be a large range of things. It may be more difficult to build or less difficult to build. Open hardware in general just means that the design is released with instructions and everything you need to know to build it. In our situation, because we need a community-driven effort and we need those parts and materials to be readily accessible, we keep our designs limited, but not limited by today's technology because everything's so available, to things you can order, right? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to order a half horsepower motor on Amazon.com. But if you want to order a motor for one of these wheelchairs you can get through the system, you have to be an approved ATP that's approved by an insurance system, that's approved by a doctor, that's approved by this and approved by that. And then you're still just hoping that they have fit you into the proper box that says you can have that repair. And then you've got this long wait for repairs. As an advocate, I've seen it take between weeks to as much as 5 years. Um, and that largely comes down to numbers, and that's the fact, right? We're not a number. I'm not a number. Roz is not a number. The number, right, needs to be equitable. What is the value per dollar here? What are we getting out of this? Because you were talking about you want him to have his independence in so many different ways. When I was a kid, there were so many periods in which I did not have that independence because the wheelchair broke down. And when that happened, um, that put a further unnecessary burden on my family. They had to work less. They had to spend more time caring for me. And we're not rich people. Well, we weren't then. and we're a lot better off now than when I was a child. But when you take away time from a family unit, that's a resource. And how do you move up in society as well as you're able if you're wasting your time because of an arduous system that doesn't provide adequate equipment? Um, you know, the independence issue I can talk to very greatly. I really didn't find my independence until about 2019, about 6.5, 7 years ago. And that was through a crowd-funded used wheelchair that we were able to continuously repair. I have not stopped moving since then. And that's what brought about our foundation to create open hardware that facilitates the automatic right to repair. We have a congressional bill right now in Congress to give you the right to repair your wheelchair. But here's the thing, I've read that bill. It doesn't cover manual wheelchairs, which have the same problems in terms of repair and timing. And it carves out for trade secrets. And the problem here is, what is a trade secret? It sounds great because you're going to be able to make money in a for-profit business. However, as iPhone has taught us, a trade secret, when you have that much money and lawyers, can be the location of a fuse, right? And so what they've done is they've just given these larger companies who are owned by private equity companies that control them the out, right? You have the right to repair your wheelchair, except for this, that, and the other thing until you have nothing left to repair. That's how California's state level right to repair went. They carved out pretty much most of the things you would have to repair. And we're able to get around that because that's what open hardware is, right? If you can get the steel and aluminum and the motors and the tires and wheels from industries that exist, and while they do hold IP, they still want to sell them, and so they're readily available. There's already a supply chain. And you told me once that your son was able to use a friend's power wheelchair one day. What was
Yeah, we went, we had a play date with a little girl who's a full-time wheelchair user. She's maybe a year older than our kiddo. So, a bit further along in the process. And also her family is her dad's an electrical engineer, so um very privy to, gadgets and equipment and all that kind of stuff. While we were there, this particular kid has a kind of like a tank uh, pediatric chair that she uses, and then she also had like a backup power chair that she uses. And so the kids were playing, and our kid was there with his walker, and he was in a stroller at the time. And this little girl very generously said, "Oh, well, do you want to try my other chair and see how you like it?" And our son said, "Well, yeah, I do." So they brought it out, and he sat in it, and then the kids proceeded to play together for 2 hours without bothering us. They, and they proceeded to, play around in the backyard and on the blacktop and played hide and seek and played whatever it is they played. I don't know, I wasn't involved, and it was amazing that I wasn't involved because it was one of the first times that I saw him truly engage in independent social play in which I didn't have to be there sort of monitoring how he was doing in his walker to make sure he wasn't tired or didn't fall or whatever it was.
And as he gets older, that momming gets annoying. I've been through it,
Yeah, everyone's mom's annoying. I
right?
mean, but like if, like it just means the mom's doing a good job if she's annoying. Yeah, but you don't want mom or dad looking over your shoulder all the time. Like if that's not what it has to be,
Right.
right? Then why have it be that? Like it doesn't have to be like that.
And that's what we're here for, right? I like to remind people that if we can do better, we should. And through open hardware and these kinds of initiatives, we can. And I want to talk about this chair that we're designing. Um, the fundraiser that we have going, which will be included in this video, and I'll talk about it in a minute, includes the design of a prototype for a modular children's wheelchair. The reason for modularity is that you have choices, and we talked about choices earlier. The more, the better. And you also have options for adjustment. So our intention is to make one that can be adjusted to grow with the child, so you don't need a new wheelchair every year. It's also, let's say an upgrade comes out for batteries and you want to put a different, better battery in it. Well, there you go, do it. Nobody's going to stop you. Same with motors. If you need a change to the seating system at all, you can do it, right? And you know what? You can ask us for help. Um, and then, in fact, there are people throughout every community that you can ask for help with things like that.
And
And
that's the thing that I love about this project. It's like obviously I'm excited about it because it's going to benefit my child personally, and that's obviously, I'm a human and I want the best for my own child, but it's not only my child, right? It's this is a larger issue, and um, this is going to benefit kids who have similar needs to thrive, right? And if it can be that the Mobility Independence Foundation creates this prototype, which is then becomes a viable open source uh, chair plan, right, that anybody can have access to and build, um, then it'll make the process that much easier for the next family. It'll make the process that much more available for the next family. And so it's, in the same way, Thomas, that you, I think, have really paved the way to make the process, to make the process easier and more empowering. You've had so many experiences. I don't know, from what you've told me, it's just like when you spoke to me, when you described to me your experience of recess as a child and how frustrating that was to not have, you know, access to the mobility that you needed in order to participate, and the isolation that created, the fact that now you're doing this work that is so um it's so reparative and so um helpful, and I only hope that you do through you doing this work to help others not have to experience what you experienced, that in some way that there's like repair for you too, even if it doesn't undo the harm that it's already been done. But I hope that there's some element of transcendence in that, because I mean, just the personal strength to be able to say, wow, I had these really messed up experiences, and now I'm gonna take that and channel it into like helping others avoid what it is that I had to experience. Like it just,
um,
gotta,
I'd
yeah.
add here, necessity is the mother of invention, and invention solves problems. And if you solve a problem for yourself and you know it can solve problems for others, it really behooves you to share that solution and spread it as much as you can. And you're absolutely right. It is restorative to me to think that or to know that what we're doing is going to prevent a lot of the hardship that I went through and that my family went through, right? It's not just me, right? All of these problems cause problems for those around you, your caregivers, your loved ones, the people who teach you in school, your peers in school, right? They benefit from learning from your existence, right? Peers they're going to benefit from knowing him. They're going to gain understanding. And to me, that's what creates inclusion, not a regulation, not a rule, not a force, but a will and the ability to include ourselves. If I can go on the playground, then my peers are going to see me on the playground. And
in
that's,
in a place of power, right?
yes.
Both mechanically and and on the larger meta level, a place of power, right? It's not just, oh, they're going to see me, they're going to learn. like they're going to learn from him, right? They're going to develop awareness about what it means to have ambulatory differences. They're going to be like, oh, snap, like that kid can move. That kid can move.
It's it needs to become more commonplace too, because not enough of us are getting out in the world in that manner. Now, the more we get equipment in the hands of people who are trapped in their homes or institutions so that they can get out and find that independence, the more society will learn. And to that note, let's discuss the book. Our newest board member, Dr. Daniel Chavez, is in the process of writing a children's book about the experience of a child who needed a power wheelchair and decided to go about designing it himself. And it kind of really it hit me in the feels when I saw his first draft because that was me. I remember watching G.I. Joe, and when they were paratrooping, jumping out of airplanes with parachutes, I, with brittle bones, very brittle bones at that time in my life, decided I had to figure out how to build some kind of tech to make it safe for me to jump out of a perfect airplane. Uh, I never actually succeeded. I haven't jumped out of an airplane yet, but maybe someday. But when you donate to the fundraiser, a $25 donation will get you the ebook and the audio book. If you make that $50, you'll get those plus a hardcover. If you make it $100, you'll get those, plus you'll be able to choose a school or a library to send it to. And if you go for $250, you can choose both a school and a library. And this book is intended to teach those with disabilities at a young age, as well as others who don't have disabilities at a young age, that we can solve our own problems, that we can do things, that we can be in the world and live, not just stay alive, but thrive. And I think that is the bigger point that our foundation is trying to make. I really want to thank you, Eliana, for being here today, for being willing to share as much as you have. And, it's important to tell these stories and to show that there's solutions because that's how we make this movement work.
Well, and
And
that's the thing I just want to say about the book. Like, you've seen there has been a lot of change. There's been more visibility of wheelchair users in children's books, kids who use mobility aids. But have you seen a book about a child building their own chair? Have you seen a book about a child being in that place of power that they take matters into their own hands and they solve their own problem? I've never seen that. I've never seen that. And that's what to me feels so innovative and so new about this particular book. And that's why I really want it out there for my own family, but for all of the other families, right, that are experiencing similar things. Because a story like that is powerful, right? It can change, right? Change starts in our thoughts. It starts in the way that we perceive ourselves. We perceive what is possible, right? And when your perception of what is possible is expanded through storytelling, it changes our lived reality. It just does. And that's what is so exciting to me about this book and this project.
I can relate to that because when I was growing up, I was never, um, other than my parents, but through the medical systems and welfare systems, they never told you to solve your own problem. They told you to take the solutions they handed that they thought were best. I've actually had people tell me we let the experts who are ambulatory and don't live with disability decide what you need, and that's ridiculous. But I really want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank the viewers for taking the time to watch this. Stay tuned. In a second, you will see some screenshots from the book and a QR code to donate, as well as a direct link to donate.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for doing this work and for spearheading this project and yeah, for just being awesome.
Well, Eliana, you're a wonderful mother. I can see it already, and
Well,
you
I'm
know,
lucky. I have great kids, so they make it pretty easy.
all right.
Pretty
You have a
easy.
good.
Pretty easy. Okay, let's be real.
All right. Nothing good in life is ever that easy.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. It is the first.
Yeah, Happy New Year 2026. Let's make it good.
Ross was a boy with a dream so wide, but insurance said no and turned aside. He needed wheels to roll and play. The foundation built him a brand new way. Roll, Ross, roll in your RazRover. Zoom in fast, the world's your cover. Strong and steady, built with care. RazRover brings freedom everywhere.
With shiny wheels and a custom seat, Ross could dance and race down the street. He laughed, he played, he found his voice. The RazRover gave him a choice.
Roll, Ross, roll in your RazRover. Zoom in fast, the world's your cover. Strong and steady, built with care. RazRover brings freedom everywhere. Now children far and children near will get the wheels they need each year. RazRover's design will light the way for kids who dream, for kids who play. Raz grew strong, he spoke out loud. He told the world he made us proud. A hero now with a message clear. Mobility means freedom, let's all cheer. Find us, roll in your RazRover. Zoom in fast, the world's your cover. From one boy's dream to children all, RazRover answers freedom's call. Roll, Ross, roll in your RazRover. Zoom in fast, the world's your cover.